So today we're delighted to welcome our distinguished guest, Khenpo Sodargye, to the University of Toronto and to our very lucky Intro to Buddhism class. So the Department of Religion at the University of Toronto is now a thriving and vital part of our academic institution. Among the many religious disciplines taught at U of T, there's the study of Buddhism. Not so many years ago, at U of T, Buddhist philosophy was not taught through its own department. It was taught as an adjunct to the Department of Philosophy, with a focus on early Buddhism and Sanskrit primarily. In recent years, however, Buddhism as a discipline in its own right was introduced and incorporated into the study of the Department of Religion, where a wide range of Buddhist courses are now offered. The department has flourished with a growing faculty of distinguished professors, such as your own professor, Professor Francis Garrett, who's an expert in Tibetan Buddhist studies with a focus on Tibetan embryology, Christoph Amret, who is a scholar in Sanskrit and Pali and teaches Newer Buddhism and Indian Buddhism, and Amanda Goodman, an expert on Chinese Buddhism. So you have a great faculty and lots of choices of courses. There's also been new languages introduced. We have our own Tibetan Khenpo who teaches Tibetan now at the university. And Christoph Amret offers Pali classes as well as lots of introductory and advanced classes in Sanskrit. All three campuses in U of T offer Buddhist courses, and so there seems to be a growing and continuing interest in Buddhism throughout the university and North America. I would like to say a few words about our distinguished guest today, Khenpo Sodargye. He's a highly respected and erudite teacher, knowledgeable in many fields of Buddhist learning and meditation. He received his training at the great Sutra monastery under the direction of his esteemed master, Jimmy Phuntsok Rinpoche. After many years of study and training, he began his teaching through instruction and order of his own root guru. In particular, he took on the role of teaching the many Chinese students affiliated with his center and lineage, and his activities in this regard have been truly remarkable. He's written over 100 books in Chinese and has countless devoted students in China and elsewhere across the globe. His name itself, the Great Spherical of Good Fortune, certainly is our good fortune today, and we are delighted to have the opportunity to have him teach on the subject of Vajrayana cosmology, an interesting and diverse topic rarely taught in the West. Welcome.
I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to connect with the Department of Religion at the University of Toronto. It's a truly wonderful and invaluable chance for us to have this meaningful exchange and discussion today. As was clearly mentioned in the insightful introduction here at your esteemed department, you also conduct extensive research on Buddhism and various other significant areas of knowledge. As for myself, I am primarily a dedicated practitioner who diligently studies Buddhism. At the same time, I am also particularly interested in both Western and Eastern cultures, especially in how humanity approaches morality and scientific knowledge in these cultures. I am very interested in any field of study that is beneficial in these respects. So personally, I am someone who is very deeply interested in such topics as these. Today, we can delve into a comprehensive discussion about the profound and far-reaching influence of Tibetan Buddhism on the world, particularly regarding its intricate and unique views on the universe. In fact, Tibetan Buddhism, as many of you here probably actually know quite well, was relatively closed off before the 1950s and 60s. It was a flourishing religion in Tibet originating from Indian Buddhism. But later on, and even now, in Southeast Asian countries, North America, and throughout Europe, Tibetan Buddhism has attracted a great deal of attention worldwide, especially among intellectuals. Moreover, after studying it further in depth, for both our comprehensive physical well-being and our profound mental health, including the significant enhancement of our own innate wisdom and boundless compassion, it is truly a religion of immense and enduring great significance. However, today I do not intend to give you a more detailed introduction or explanation here. I've heard that many people gathered here today are deeply interested in understanding how Buddhism comprehensively views the entire universe and the world. That is to say, how our contemporary scientific perspectives and recent discoveries truly compare with the profound and ancient Buddhist views that originated more than 2,500 years ago, offering a fascinating historical and philosophical contrast. And what kind of balance exists between the two, or in other words, what differences there are between them. Regarding this topic, in the relatively short time we have together, we can certainly exchange valuable ideas or thoughtfully share insights with each other. Everyone present here is already well aware that the world fundamentally consists of both the intricate microscopic and the expansive macroscopic realms. These two distinct and essential aspects. Today, let's briefly and clearly talk about the macroscopic world. Everyone present here today undoubtedly knows, or at least has a general understanding, that in fact within the vast and expansive entire Milky Way galaxy, we are truly, profoundly, and utterly insignificant. Just yesterday, when I was flying in from the distant land of Australia, I found myself continuously pondering and deeply contemplating on the plane that in fact we humans are very insignificant. And among all of humanity, I am even more insignificant. Because when I think about the vast world of our entire Milky Way right now, in just a single galaxy, there are actually between 100 billion and 400 billion stars. Such an incredibly vast and immense space and time it truly is. Within all of this, the Earth we live on is extremely tiny. So what does Buddhism say about the Milky Way? In fact, whether it's science or religion, there is no completely unified view. Even now, as humanity has entered the 21st century, it's still very difficult to have a fully unified perspective. The scientific community is constantly updating its views, and there are also different perspectives within religion. So in Buddhism, the vast world we currently live in, 1,000 of these are collectively called a small chiliocosm. This is then taken as a single fundamental unit, and subsequently 1,000 of these make up a medium chiliocosm. This is also taken as a single unit and then multiplied by another 1,000. This is called a great chiliocosm. If we calculate it using our current numbers, I've calculated before, and it could be about 1 billion worlds. Actually, within a single galaxy, this is also a system of stars. Because around one central star, there are many other celestial stars also orbiting. In fact, it's entire worlds like this that are truly fascinating. Just now, within a single galaxy, because it contains 100 billion to 400 billion stars. In Buddhism, we often say that there are indeed countless great chiliocosms, vast and immeasurable universes. Including Shakyamuni Buddha, he is the Buddha of one great chiliocosm. After truly understanding this, I often think so many years ago, in the entire world, there were already such countless descriptions. Actually, this should be considered a truly profound and highly advanced theory. Many dedicated individuals within Buddhism who diligently study the vast and intricate field of astronomy are quite surprised when they see these numbers, wondering how there could be so many. I've heard that nowadays in top universities, many students specialize in the fascinating field of cosmology, especially the younger, more impressionable students. When they encounter such truly enormous and mind-boggling numbers and are exposed to some truly boundless and expansive worldviews, they also experience a feeling in their minds thinking that it's just too incredible. In fact, the unbelievable is also a real phenomenon. Recently, Stephen Hawking, after many years of observation, felt that cosmological theories are even more inconceivable than I could have imagined. On this point, I think in many areas, if we continue to explore and conduct research, we will undoubtedly discover many commonalities. This is precisely what we discuss from the perspective of the vast, expansive universe as a whole. If we look at it from the perspective of current cosmological theories on a smaller scale, as everyone knows, the scientific community is very concerned about the origin, evolution, and eventual destruction of the current universe. This is a topic of great interest. But from the perspective of astronomy today, when exactly the universe began, there are different opinions, and quite a few people believe that it may have started with the Big Bang. Because there are also different theories about the Big Bang, ranging from 12 to 15 billion years ago. There was a time before the Common Era when a Big Bang might have occurred. It may have started from that point. This is also the current view of the scientific community. Buddhism has also explored this topic to some extent. In Buddhism, our world goes through 4 stages: formation, existence, destruction, and emptiness. It is divided into 4 stages, and during the formation stage, at first, it is just tiny particles like emptiness itself. Then slowly, gradually, these become wind particles, and little by little, it takes shape. According to Buddhist teachings, although it does not describe the beginning as a Big Bang, there is a gradual process of formation. This process also takes an extremely long period of time. After it gradually finishes forming completely, it remains stable for 20 intermediate kalpas, something like that. When it finally comes to its final destruction, in some current theories, for example, many stars in the end naturally violently explode, burn, and are completely destroyed. Astronomers now also say that a vast number of stars are in the profound and inevitable process of dying. Buddhism also says that the entire universe will ultimately be completely destroyed by a cataclysmic fire. Indeed, there is such a widely held and ancient view. And then after that, during the initial stage when there is absolutely nothing at all present in the vast void, that period also lasts a very long time. So the Buddhist teaching of the 4 stages, formation, abiding, destruction, and emptiness, is actually consistent with some current astronomical theories. Moreover, in Buddhism, it is said that our present universe, some are in the stage of abiding, some are in the stage of destruction, and some are just truly beginning to form. So among the countless vast universes in all of observable space, they are all of different ages, with all kinds of stages. Some are dying, some are just beginning to emerge. There is in fact such a theory. This may also, in some certain ways, in some particular respects, there is indeed room for mutual correspondence, or it can truly provide excellent and invaluable material for extensive further scientific research and in-depth exploration. Following the initial formation and subsequent evolution of this vast and intricate universe, from the earliest ancient times to the present day, across a multitude of different civilizations and diverse cultures, there have consistently been various and often profound theories developed concerning the fundamental nature of cosmology. It should be clearly understood that, at the very beginning, long before the Common Era, Aristotle, following his observations conducted during that period, believed, as did the ancient peoples long ago, a belief also said in many religions that in fact we humans live on such a surface. The sun and the moon revolve around us above. At that particular historical juncture, this prevailing understanding was essentially the geocentric theory. This significant viewpoint gradually emerged and gained acceptance. Later, specifically around the 2nd century AD, Ptolemy, who was also a prominent ancient Greek astronomer, was also greatly impressed by Aristotle's views. So from that time onward in the Western world, as well as in many Eastern countries, the geocentric theory, a fundamental concept in our understanding of the cosmos in our world today, was steadfastly maintained for a period of approximately 16 or 1700 years. For such an incredibly extended and significant span of time, people universally and firmly believed that our Earth remained entirely motionless. The sun and the moon revolved around us. This point, for everyone present here, is a very basic piece of common knowledge that we've all learned. The viewpoint of this theory is similar to some of the ideas in Hinduism and Vedic religion, as well as certain early Abhidharma statements, discussions within the Buddhism. Although there are some subtle differences among them, they are also quite similar. Historically, people widely believed that the sun revolved around our world, consistently moving from east to west in this predictable manner. Consequently, in certain early Buddhist treatises, there are also explicit statements that reflect this understanding. Then, it should be around the 16th century AD, at that time, as everyone knows, Copernicus, the Polish astronomer, discovered the heliocentric theory through his observations. He broke with the previous concept, completely indeed, and proposed that the Earth is not the center, introducing the heliocentric theory. The viewpoint of the heliocentric theory did not spread widely for about half a century. It was certainly not actively promoted during that particular time period. Later scientists like Bruno and Galileo further confirmed his theory, especially Galileo, who is also widely known as the esteemed father of modern observational astronomy. Some of his profound views, primarily in the Western world, were indeed thoroughly and carefully verified through powerful telescopes and various other scientific instruments, and now people have discovered the actual movement of celestial bodies as we know it today. It turns out that the views presented in Copernicus's On the Revolutions of the Heavenly Spheres were only confirmed among people half a century later. This ultimately led to a significant development and a profound new understanding that was quite different from what had been previously accepted, especially the renowned scientist Bruno, who had already successfully overturned many long-standing religious concepts in the Western world that had persisted for well over 1,000 years. When he undertook this difficult path, he personally encountered numerous significant threats and formidable challenges. Ultimately, he met a tragic end, being cruelly burned to death in the Roman square. Such is the history. Of course, some historical accounts say that his death had nothing to do with astronomy, but was related to pantheism. There are various explanations. No matter what, in the end, he discovered that many of the concepts people believed in were actually quite far from the reality we live in. Therefore, he expressed these very clear views and left them to the world. At the time, while he was promoting Copernicus's heliocentric theory, he made an unprecedented and truly profound discovery that the universe is truly infinite, an infinite universe theory indeed. In other words, in our vast and expansive universe, there isn't just one Earth and one sun. There are truly many countless worlds and all countless planets gathered here. This is very similar to what Buddhism has taught, using metaphor of grains of sand in Ganges River to describe worlds, as many worlds as grains of sand in Ganges, mentioned in many scriptures, Avatamsaka Sutra, where the phrase, as numerous as the sands of the Ganges, is often used. So in fact, the more authentic and profound Buddhist view is that all worlds, without exception, are truly infinite in their extent and nature. There are indeed countless, boundless, and immeasurable worlds existing throughout the vast and expansive universe. I have heard that many of you gathered here today are deeply interested in the teachings and philosophy of Buddhism, and are also from religious studies departments. I would always suggest that whenever it's convenient for you, it's most advisable to really read some Buddhist cosmology. Because with the truly limited time we indeed have today, there are very many ideas I would actually love to share with you all, but both time and energy are quite limited. If you're interested, I suggest it's best to read the Avatamsaka Sutra, especially the Flower Store World. That particular chapter thoroughly discusses the fascinating and profound existence of many different worlds. Let me give a simple example. How exactly is it described? Because each and every sentient being has different karma, and therefore their experiences vary. Within the worlds themselves are countless and boundless. Some worlds are round in shape, some are square, some are triangular, some are above and some are below. It says different shapes and different adornments. So this particular sentence, I have been deeply thinking about astronomy for many, many years. And I've also carefully looked through both Eastern and Western materials that are related to the fascinating field of astronomy. I'm very much interested in it, and I've read a great many books as well. At this particular point in time, I truly feel it's still very much necessary. After we've thoroughly studied many treatises and acquired a significant amount of knowledge, we might then discover what kind of world it is that we actually live in, especially, as I just mentioned just now, indeed the many various differences in karma. This passage might be considered specialized Buddhist terminology, but it's actually truly very important indeed in our daily lives. So what then is karma? Take the same object, for example. Some people truly think it's very beautiful indeed. Some people think it's just average. And some people truly think it's really quite ugly, or consider the exact same person. Some people feel this person is extremely attractive. Another person might think just average. Now, maybe if you go to another country or another ethnicity, when others see this person, they might say, wow, this person is so unattractive, so ugly. Everyone's sense of aesthetics is shaped by their own habits and tendencies. So when it comes to the true nature of material things, if there really were something inherently existent, then no matter who saw it, everyone should perceive it the same way. But every sentient being in our world has different internal factors. So the issues they actually perceive are not always completely definite or clear indeed. That's why even science today has discovered theories of uncertainty. Buddhism, however, has long spoken about the concept of karma, which is actually very similar to the current scientific theories of uncertainty. They are remarkably alike. I am Tibetan, and among the Tibetan people, especially among ordinary folks without much formal education, there is a very interesting saying. What does it mean? It says that the same thing some people will see as a triangle, while other observers will perceive it as a perfect square. I think this saying carries a very profound meaning. The same thing, but some people think it is a square-shaped object, while others think it is a triangle. Of course, nowadays we might not immediately feel this way just by looking at the shape, but in actual reality, when it truly comes to our deeply held values and aesthetic preferences, when it comes to the same thing for each and every person, especially between the distinct East and West, and also the North and South, many people, when it really comes to this matter, arrive at quite different conclusions indeed. There are huge differences. It's precisely the same with our fundamental worldviews. If we meticulously apply the profound principle of uncertainty to thoroughly explore or diligently conduct research into various phenomena, we might have more room for possibilities. So, as I mentioned earlier, our current universe is indeed something that people all over the world can see. And our Earth is also spherical. In fact, in the ancient Buddhist scriptures, there is a well-known text called the Jewel Garland Tantra that specifically states there are approximately 11 million distinct individual spherical worlds. These remarkable formations are meticulously sculpted and brought into existence with the significant and persistent help of the powerful forces of both wind and water working together in a harmonious and continuous process, coming into actual being and truly full existence in the world. There are 11 million spherical, truly ball-like worlds in existence that exist throughout the entire universe. That exist. This is truly one of the earliest and most fundamental statements in the profound teachings of Buddhism. I think from this particular statement we can also clearly see that in the very earliest days of the Buddhism, there was a truly remarkable and profoundly significant discovery made about the vast and intricate cosmos. It's certainly not because I personally identify as a Buddhist myself, nor am I attempting to boast or in any way exaggerate anything like that today. That's not my intention. But as human beings, wherever there is reasonable and correct truth, we must indeed acknowledge it. We should seek it out. We shouldn't blindly defend something because it comes from a religion or science. We shouldn't support it. I don't think that's necessary. We should always take a truly fair and a very impartial stance on this matter to judge and explore the truth. This is a fundamental responsibility that every student and indeed every individual person should inherently possess and actively uphold. And also, historically speaking, around the 5th century, a pivotal period in ancient history, in the ancient East, there was a renowned Buddhist university widely known as Nalanda Monastery. At that particular time, it could truly be considered the prestigious Harvard University of the East. It was there that a brilliant individual named Aryabhata emerged. He was a very famous and influential mathematician and also a highly respected astronomer. So, what exactly did his profound treatises say? He meticulously stated that our Earth, the very planet we inhabit, is actually made up of the 4 major solid earth, water, fire, and wind, and is a perfectly round sphere, beautifully composed of these essential elements. It exists in the vast void. That's the first point. Second, he clearly said, when we are on a boat, it often feels as if the various things around us, including many stationary objects, are perceptibly moving backward. In precisely the same way, when we are living here on our planet Earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars that are visible above us seem to actually be revolving right along truly with us. But in reality, it is we who are moving, not them. Through this analogy, he already very clearly and comprehensively explained that as early as the 5th century, the movement of all celestial bodies in the starry sky as we know it today, I feel that after seeing this significant treatise, as early as the 5th century, in fact, in Eastern culture, there were indeed some quite clear and well-developed cosmological theories as well. If you are genuinely interested in conducting further extensive research on the fascinating field of astronomy, there is a profound and ancient text within Tibetan Buddhism that is specifically known as the Kalachakra Tantra. And many great masters often give Kalachakra initiations and spread the theories of the Kalachakra Tantra to everyone. In fact, there is a significant layer of content embedded within it, which represents a comprehensive exploration of the world. And in reality, this perspective is remarkably similar to the principles and methodologies of modern astronomy. This particular viewpoint, however, does not rely on any direct or observable astronomical evidence, including phenomena such as solar and lunar eclipses as we currently know them today, as well as the overall weather patterns of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. All of these intricate details are explained according to the profound views of the Kalachakra Tantra. In our Tibetan region, this model has been continuously operating for thousands of years. Actually, if you are genuinely interested, you can certainly learn much more about this in the specialized calendrical schools of Tibetan monasteries. When you compare it with the astronomy taught in today's high-tech universities and make a comparison between the two, you'll find there are meaningful similarities. The Kalachakra Tantra is fascinating. The calculations in the Kalachakra Tantra are slightly different from the calculations in modern astronomy. There are some rather slight, yet quite noticeable and indeed significant differences. For instance, the celestial orbits of the sun and the moon, which we usually refer to as the ecliptic and the lunar orbit when calculating their intersection points, the Kalachakra Tantra gives a value of about 6,792.99 days, while modern astronomy calculates it as 6,793.460 days. So there is this kind of difference. As for the Earth's entire orbital revolution, it's 365 days a year with no real difference. It's just that for the planets, Jupiter and Mars, in terms of the actual orbits of the stars themselves, there are only just a few very minor and insignificant differences in the decimal points. Also, in the Kalachakra Tantra, from the very beginning, it mentions the essential nature of Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn, which is also related to the elements. This is explained in the Kalachakra Tantra, that one is of earth, one is of wood, and one is of metal nature. Their entire essence is also described quite clearly. Within Buddhism, the Kalachakra Tantra says that when Shakyamuni Buddha was about to approach and enter his final nirvana, he carefully transmitted these profound teachings to his devoted disciples in southern India. There are also extensive written records of this important event that exist even today. Consequently, many later scholars have provided explanations for it. This is part of the content about the external world in the Kalachakra Tantra. But in fact, its most important foundation is our inner universe. Our bodies are just like the external universe. They also go through the stages of formation, abiding, destruction, and emptiness. And our physical bodies are also an aggregation, a collection of the four fundamental elements. As for our consciousness, how do we ultimately truly realize complete luminosity and attain liberation? There are more detailed textual explanations on this subject, which are clearly stated in the inner Kalachakra Tantra. Therefore, from the Buddhist perspective, understanding and mastering the external world is also very important for a person. But even more truly important is the recognition of our own inner mind and the careful attention we pay to our internal world. That is even more important. What I am sharing with you here is that some Tibetan Buddhist scholars have things in common with many of our current scholars. There are similarities between them. Everyone possesses a natural thirst for and a deep love of knowledge and strives very diligently in the pursuit of the truth. In this respect, they are the same. But in Tibet, there are also quite a few people who, at a certain point, place great importance on understanding themselves and cultivating their own character, and they value this very much as well. If one's own personal achievements and level of spiritual practice do not improve, even if their academic research is truly outstanding, sometimes they may still consider it an incomplete life overall. There is a very famous historian in Tibetan Buddhism named Master Bhutan. Bhutan, as you may know, was a truly remarkable individual. He made truly tremendous and significant contributions to all of humanity and authored many treatises. But in his later years, he became very interested in astronomy and devoted himself to its study, setting aside his own spiritual practice. So many later wise people believed, his people, that one should not follow his example in this regard. Not everyone here necessarily has complete faith in Buddhism, so finding a common ground among us is also acceptable, I think. But no matter what the circumstances, we should always seek a more stable and truly enduring truth. This is very important, because only in this way can it truly accompany us for the longest possible time. In our modern era, everyone profoundly feels the inherent need for something truly perfect and exquisitely beautiful. Actually, no matter where people are originally from, everyone needs to seek this. I think this is also very necessary. But more importantly, our profound sense of perfection and beauty, perhaps inner beauty, is truly the best kind, because it does not easily age or change over time. If we exclusively pursue external perfection or merely superficial external beauty, then when it inevitably encounters the relentless and unforgiving wounds of time, it will effortlessly wither away and very quickly become unsightly. So, we should pursue an inherent inner perfection. This kind of genuine perfectionism should be truly good and beneficial. In fact, none of us really knows in this lifetime how much great space and vast opportunity there is to explore the external world. It's hard to say, but the key point is we must purify our inner spiritual world. At the very same time, in our own personal homes and within the various social groups closely related to us, we should have ample opportunities to fully understand and learn. We ourselves should diligently do what we genuinely can within our inherent abilities to love knowledge and to love wisdom. And this kind of profound wisdom is greatly helpful indeed, both to ourselves and to others. I often think, on one hand, pursuing knowledge in life is very important indeed, but on the other hand, what is even more profoundly important is that we should always be truly responsible for ourselves. A person such as this, living in this very world, should have the most meaningful life. Actually, this universe, this world, is extremely vast. However, if you choose to narrow your focus and concentrate your efforts, it might eventually become just the small, immediate world directly surrounding you. And if you shrink this world even further, ultimately, it still comes down to our inner world. If a person truly comes to deeply understand their own inner world, then in actual fact, they have indirectly come to fully understand the profound and intricate true nature of our entire vast universe. When I was studying in the past, I distinctly recall once reading a poem by a renowned Indian scholar which eloquently said, "Sometimes we need to pay attention to the colorful world outside, which is very helpful for our own inner world. And sometimes we need to observe our own luminous and empty inner world, and through it we can also come to know the beautiful world outside." That's all I have to say.